what is done to my wife. You can't run, you can't hide. Don't let me stay at your side.
This is Steve Keeter. Let's talk small press. Today I want to talk about co-ops, small press co-ops. They've been around for a while. I was there pretty far back. Not quite at the beginning, almost at the beginning. I think the first small press co-op was started by Carl Gafford in 1968. I think it was 68, 69. It might have been 68. I think it was 68 when he first came up with the idea. And the first BPP comics, because it was called the BPP, Blue Plaque Publications, which is interesting because most of the publications were printed in that day by the purple ditto method. The pages looked purple. It was a really primitive printing process using an alcohol-based solution, and everything came out purple. And but they called it blue plaque publications. Maybe Carl was colorblind. I am, and purple looks like blue to me, and so maybe it did to him, but I don't know. Anyway, that was way back, and the BPP lasted a while. Had some incredibly talented people in there. The cream of the crop of small press in those days. Carl himself, Dwight Decker, Artie Ed Romero, Gordon Matthews, Chuck Robinson, who published Comix, which greatly influenced me, and a few other really great people. And something happened along the lines. The level of interest dropped, and the BPP fell apart in the early 70s. And just before it fell apart, I had applied for membership in that group, urged on by my friendship with Chuck Robinson. He urged me to apply. I was just coming into small press, and in 1972 I was voted into the BPP, and then the group fell apart. Now, coincidentally and historically interesting, Frank Miller, the Frank Miller who did Daredevil, Sin City, the movie 300, all that stuff. He was voted in at the same time I am. He still remembers it. Carl says that he talked to Frank Miller recently, and they mentioned the old BPP days. But he wasn't in there long. When the group fell apart, he disappeared too. But the co-ops continued. I spoke with Chuck about it. As the group was dying, I decided to launch my own revival as the last member voted into the group, contacted all the original members, and I asked them to rejoin, which they did not do. But with Chuck's blessing, and Chuck talked to Carl, and Carl's blessing, I launched an entirely new BPP. Instead of calling it Blue Plaque Publications, I called it Blue Phoenix Publications, indicating a phoenix-like rising from the ashes. And some of the earliest members of that group were Jim Main, Rod Snyder, who's passed away a while back. He was a great guy. We miss him. Larry Johnson was a member. Kurt Erickson, Jack Moninger. We had a blast. We revived the BPP. I was the first chairman after Carl, and after that Kurt Erickson took over, and it went on, and it eventually became the UFO. We felt kind of uncomfortable using the old BPP name because since none of the original members were members now, it didn't seem right, so we changed the name to the United Fan Organization, and then to the United Fanzine Organization. The small press comics were called fanzines back in those days, and it kept going. And like I say, Kurt Erickson took over, and Kurt Erickson was an incredible chairman. Lasted as chairman for several years, followed by I think Jay Zilber and Chris Rock, and then the group fell apart again. And but the UFO continues to this day. I mean, it fell apart. It was revived by Jim Main in the early 80s, and then he was chairman, and then I became chairman again. I came back into the group, and then he was chairman again, and I was chairman again, and he was chairman again, and on and on and on. And right now, Jason DeGroot is chairman of the UFO. It continues to this day. In the late 60s, late 1990s, Jim Main and I decided to launch a revival version of something akin to the original BPP, and we called it the BPP, Blue Plaque Publications, and it has coexisted to this day alongside the UFO as a brother co-op. Meanwhile, out there's something called the SPS, the Small Press Syndicate, an outstanding group on its own. Sherman Burnett is chairman of this group. Interestingly, the guys who started the SPS used to say that it was a group for people who couldn't make it into the UFO because their quality standards were too stringent. You had to have a certain level, and you had to be voted, and you had to be rated, and your books had to be rated. All that stuff's been dropped now in the UFO, although it still is definitely stands for high quality. But so do the other groups. BPP, the SPS, small presses are really cranking out some really fine, great comics these days. And all three co-ops coexist, and there have been other groups along the ways. There was the small what was it? The self-publishers. What was that thing that Steve Shipley was head of for? Well, I mean, it was Pizzazz. Now that's another story. That was totally different, totally whacked out and unusual. They called it a Christian comics co-op. It was certainly a very conservative co-op, and most of the people were a member of different religious denominations, it was sort of controversial. And at one point, I became a member, and I think I sunk that group because, as much as I respected, the code of ethics that it had, and all the, I like the guys. They were all great guys. Victor Gates and Ken Leach. I mean, these guys were incredibly talented people, but. I guess I was devil's advocate. I introduced some ideas that might have been radical, and then Shipley came back in there and took it back over again. Although he had been through a religious phase, he'd been through several religious phases. He was kind of out of the religious phase and started publishing comics that were a little bit risque. He published something called the Graystown Girls with these very Betty and Veronica Archie-looking type girls, but in various stages of undress, cavorting in its pages and everything. And by that time, the whole religious angle kind of dropped by the wayside, and Pizzazz eventually collapsed. But then Shipley did something else. He had something called, what was that thing? The Self-Publishers, I can't remember. It lasted a little while. He got a lot of money from a lot of people, and then he suddenly gaffiated. He disappeared. He dropped out of small press and took everybody's money with him. Since everybody knew I was a friend of him, I got some people emailing me, contacting me and saying, hey, since you know Shipley so well, could you get him to send me my dues money back? But, he took off with my dues money, and I couldn't do a darn thing. I don't know where the guy went, But anyway, maybe you'll see this video and pop back up one of these days. Hey, Shipley, we still love you. Nobody's perfect, Okay, anyway, 3 groups today. I'm a member of all 3. I could go on and on about these co-ops. There have been other co-ops. The Small Press League, which is kind of our liberal radical co-op, had Rick Howe, William Dockery, and Andrew Roller. Remember Andrew Roller? Had some people who wanted to do something really different, and kind of like, if it was rock music, Lou Reed would have been in that particular co-op, but dark and unusual, but nevertheless pretty inspirational. But they were bound to self-destruct. They had that element firmly ingrained into their very heart and soul. But anyway, today we have the UFO. Now the UFO has continued. It has had gaps, lapses, but it has continued. Tetragrammaton Fragments is the name of the newsletter. Here's a copy of the Tetragrammaton Fragments, issue number 200, a landmark issue, and with the front cover is by the man himself, the originator of the small press co-op, Carl Gafford, and there's a lot of neat stuff in here. This is from Repercussion Comics. Right here, is that not an amazing drawing? I think it's by Mark Haynes. Forgive me if I'm wrong, guys, but man, awesome. And it's got contributions from former members of the group, including, here he is for the first time in 30 years in a issue of Tetragrammaton Fragments, Kurt Erickson, the former chairman Kurt Erickson, who did such a great job back in the 70s, kept the group alive, and we owe him a great debt of gratitude. That was the end of part 1. There's a second part to this video. So check it out. This is the second part of this video. If you haven't seen part 1, go back and look at part 1. This is part 2. There's a lot of great stuff in here. Look who's in here. There it is. Head for Time Press. That's Brian Wayne Powell. Right there. Not the greatest artist in the world, but one of the greatest wits of all time, and his stuff is always hilarious. So they're still kicking. We have the Blues Letter here. Adam Owen does often, I guess he does most of the covers. He does neat computer artwork and stuff. On the back cover is by Judy Keeter, my daughter, and I'm very proud of her. I think she's gotten better and better. she certainly can do things on a computer. I have no concept, no clue how to do it, but darn, she's really good. She's a way better artist than I ever was or ever. I mean, come on. Here's an example of my artwork. Okay, here, right here. Does it compare to hers? No. Well, I don't mind. I'm a proud dad. What do you want? One of my favorite artists, one of my favorite funny people in the BPP who has a strip in this issue is Nate Carrigan. He always does really funny, exaggerated stuff. And here's a guy going to the beach. He gets stung by a jellyfish, and the sand's real hot, and everything goes wrong, and he's on vacation. And I mean, it's almost so real that it shouldn't be funny, but it is because he knows how to carry it off. Some members of the BPP include these days Sam Gafford, Carl's younger brother, who has done a fine job of carrying on the group, and I hope he continues forever. Jim Main, who I also hope will stay in the group forever. Super talents. One of my great friends, Jim Main. Floyd Sumner, the king of small press production, an incredible artist. Incredible artist. They just don't get any better than that. Larry Blake, talk about incredible artists, and it goes on and on. There's a lot of great people involved. Chuck Robinson II. And by the way, I mentioned the old BPP earlier, and how we had changed the name to the UFO, not as to not offend the original members because we had an entirely new membership. But some of the original members did eventually rejoin, including Artie Ed Romero and Chuck Robinson II. And Chuck is a member to this day of the new BPP, not the UFO, but the BPP. If you're confused, I apologize. It's just, that's history, and sometimes that's the way things are. They don't always add up and make sense. But there are, there's a BPP and there's a UFO and there's an SPS. Here's Rap Sheet, the new issue of Rap Sheet, with a cover by Mike Roden. And Mike Roden, we missed a guy. He passed away recently. He was a great talent. The interesting thing about Rap Sheet in the SPS is that they got an incredible membership. Matt Dembicki, Jack Bertram, Renee Blancett. I mean, these are incredible talents. Dan Nauenberg, oh gosh, super talent. But the interesting thing is about their newsletter is that instead of a lot of articles and discussion and ratings and reviews of members, they have a lot of comics. Here's a great one here. Here's some incredible artwork from I forget the guy's name. Here you go. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. But who is that? Darn, why don't they put the credits in the front? Well, it's darn good. Dan Nauenberg has a really nice thing in here. Artie Boehm. He was a dentist. I met him in Chicago in the late 80s, and he does really neat stuff. Totally original style. Totally original, bizarre, and hilarious. I love this guy's work. I've been a fan ever since I first saw his work at that convention. Here's an example of something Dan Nauenberg did. Totally irreverent, totally hilarious. Right here. And the cream of the, you talk about the cream of the crop of the small press. I mentioned it earlier. Back in those days, it was those guys. These days is these guys. The guys that I'm talking about now. I could go on. Matt Levin, who does unbelievable things. I mean, rubber stamps. Rubber stamps. Who'd have thought? I mean, the guy uses rubber stamps, but he makes an art form out of it. And nobody else does it better. Dale Martin, underground influenced artist, does sort of a jam comic where he does one panel and asks people to contribute other panels, and that's really great stuff too. Jim Pike, Superior Man. Jim Pike is a superior talent, superior artist and writer, and his stuff is really funny. And I always look forward to seeing him every year at MegaCon. George Tassinos, Big George himself, the great one. God, what an artist. What an artist. I could go on and on and on. And so there's 3 co-ops out there. A lot of great stuff being produced. I urge you all to check out all 3 co-ops if you can. I mean, join all 3. All 3 groups. It's not that hard. You contribute a column once in a while, and you pay your dues. And who hasn't paid their dues as an artist in small press or otherwise? And you know, you got a whole lot of people out there. You know, you could be doing the small press stuff forever, and you know, a lot of people don't respect it. You could put your small press comic in a comic book shop. I've done it. Nobody buys it. Even the people who run the shops, you know, they kind of laugh at you and they sneer at you. You know, it's small press stuff. It's not Marvel. It's not DC. It's not, you know, whoever, Dark Horse, whatever. But you know, who wants this crap? But I'll put it on the shelf just for amusement. Of course, nobody's going to buy it, and which is true. And thus we have our own network, you know, and we do understand each other. We do understand each other's work, and we do appreciate each other's work. Only in small press can you get this type of appreciation, understanding, and support, and encouragement, and you know, and in the co-ops, people will tell you how to improve. If you want to improve, you get commentary, you get reviews, you get you know, you get that kind of support, and you know, these are our peers. All of you are my peers, you know. And what we got here is special. It's something you never see in the mainstream. It's uncensored. You know, nobody can tell us what to publish, what to write, what to draw. We do whatever we want to do, and we send it out to people who want to see it. And you know, the co-ops are instrumental in putting that all together, giving us a means and a way to do that. You have people, you have a list of members, people who you can send them out to, and you get that kind of response, you get that kind of encouragement, you get what you need as a creator. You know, a creative person has to have that kind of feedback. You can't just, because you're too close to your own work, and you can't see it the way other people do, so you want to know what other people think. Maybe you agree with them, maybe you don't agree with them, but you're doing your best, and you do listen, and you do learn, and we can only get better and better and better as artists. You know, and maybe the stuff we do will sell one day, maybe it won't. But we have the satisfaction of knowing that we've done our best, and we've done something as artists that we can appreciate, and that people close to us can appreciate. You have successfully fulfilled your purpose as the creative person you were born to be. You have exercised that creativity, and there's a great satisfaction that comes from every creative masterpiece that one produces, whether it's really a masterpiece or not. You know, we all have our good days and bad days, but anyway, here's to the co-ops, here's the small press. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference, if in a small way. Nevertheless, you're making a difference, and there are people like me who appreciate what you do. Keep it up, small pressers. Thanks a lot for watching. This is Steve Keeter talking small press. Till next time. Hello everyone, this is Steve. You know, I had been in the process of transferring all the videos on my other channel, the Big Head, Little Head channel, over to this channel because it became too much work to keep up with two channels, and I'd like to put, you know, all my eggs in one basket, as it were. This is the last video. The one you're about to see is the last video that I had over there, and I brought it over here, but I thought I should do a new intro because that particular video, which is sort of a tour of my house and the areas in which I have, I keep you know, my comics, the classic comics, the small press comics, and all. But for some reason, it turned out kind of pixelated. Hopefully, it'll look a little better on this channel. It may not, but the intro, the beginning part of that, really looked pretty distorted and pixelated. So I'm cutting that out and replacing it with this new intro, and this serves as an explanation too of what's going on. I think that particular video was called Comix, and it's about like YouTube. You can make your own videos. You can do it yourself. Comix, you can make your own comics. You can do it yourself. There are hundreds and thousands of people across the country, across the world, making their own comics just for the fun of it, just because they love to do comics. I just received from this guy, Escape from LA. I'll put a link to his channel. Let's see, I guess it would be over there, wouldn't it? A link to his channel. And he sent me this great drawing. His real name is George. Escape from LA. The Adventures of the Loathly Daddy. You see the Loathly Daddy character here with the big hair, and over here, over here, the green mask. Appreciate it, George. Great. I'm very flattered. Not too long ago, I received from another friend of mine, comics friend, who also has a YouTube channel, Alan Freeman, this picture of myself in the big hair. This is the Loathly Daddy. Originally, I created the Loathly Daddy as a character, not the Loathly Daddy, all one word as I call myself, but this was the space, Loathly space Daddy, a crazy character. And here's another drawing. My good friend Jack Bertram that I received. And I appreciate you guys sending drawing. Anybody that wants to send a drawing, I'll be glad to show it on YouTube. Here I am with the weights that I used in an old video. The Loathly Daddy works out. Appreciate it, guys. You're the greatest. In any case, you comics. You make your own comics. I've talked too much. This is just the intro. This should have been, 30 seconds long, and here I'm going on too long. Let's go into the video. I hope you guys like it. Comment and rate and all that stuff, and have a great day. What do you see in the home of a small press guy like me? Well, if you look on the wall, you might see a Superior Man calendar. Jim Pike is the creator of Superior Man, and this picture was drawn by me last July. This was the July calendar. You might see the Hulk. You might see old comic book covers hanging on the wall, and you might see publication, something like this, Boot Hill, published by Maine Enterprises, which is Jim Maine's publishing outfit. And Jim Maine, of course, publishes some incredible comics. He's an old friend, and everything he publishes is exciting. I mean, really, seriously. This one here is it looks like ghost stories and horror stories with a Western slant. Very interesting. Sam Gafford, Jack Bertram have a huge part in this particular first issue. You can look through here and see a lot of cool stuff. I believe this is Jack Bertram's artwork right here. Whoops. I love Jack's artwork. Yep, that's him. It's a story here written by Sam Gafford and drawn by Jack Bertram. I got all this stuff just lying around here. I know this place is kind of a mess. Over here, we've got some digest comics. These are some that I'm waiting to review. Here's Tales of Fantasy, published by my good old pal Larry Johnson, whom I've known since the early 1970s. Look at that great cover. Larry Johnson writes epic comic books. He has epic characters. They're full of wonder and mystery and sorcery and all kinds of cool stuff. His most famous and primary character is Madame Boogaloo. Lou Brown is another character. Here's a story by Lou Brown. He's created an entire mythos that is, well, I mean, H.P. Lovecraft would have been proud to have created such a mythos of mystery and intrigue and all that good stuff. Over here, Dale Martin's Watusi, the Talking Dog. This is cool because it's an interactive comic book. It's a jam comic fun for all ages. Dale, what he does, and he's been doing it for 25 issues, is he writes the first panel of a 4-panel sequence, and has other people write the subsequent panels. One person does each panel, and you create a story this way. So he sends it around, and it's a jam comic full of dirty, dirty bones. And pages and pages. Really cool stuff with a whole lot of people involved. So just great stuff. And I want to shorten this, like I say. Hey, by the way, this is our computer room. There's a computer there, a computer there, and a computer there. We're talking 3 computers, people. That's because there are several people in this family, and they're all connected to the internet. And so we don't all fight over one computer. We have several computers. None of them are real expensive. Oh, this is my bedroom. Now in here, a couple of things, very quickly. In this cabinet here, a lot of cool comics and stuff. These are the full-size small press comics and stuff that I have going way back. This is the Comic Eye by Mark Ennis. Absolutely magnificent and thick comic book. Fantastic. Here's Tim Carrigan's artwork. Mighty Guy. Here's some Larry Blake. Send me a personal message and I'll send you the ordering information. Kawump from Floyd Sumner, one of the great small press news zines of today. Some seriously great stuff. Along with Small Press Extra, with an interview with Jim Main. I've talked about these before, so I'm not going to dwell on them for too long, except that this is quality stuff. And there is the great Sam Gafford himself. That's right, almost in person. The printed image looks like the real person, so it's almost in person, and an editorial. The thing with two heads being the editors of this book, Tim Goebel and Sam Gafford. Anyway, I got a lot of books in here, along with guitar equipment like this old wah pedal, and just comics, and comics too. Look, Fantastic Four, number 22. The Mole Man. Very cool stuff. Okay? A lot of cool stuff. Let's go over here. Let's run over here real quick. Oh, let's run over here real quick. I know this place is a mess right now, but I got some old 8mm movies here. Look. Destroy All Monsters. An old Ben Turpin movie a silent movie called Small Town Idol. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. And in here we have lots of tabloid stuff, old issues of the Buyer's Guide from the 1970s, Small Press Comics Explosion from 1987. Old films. Over here. In this bookcase I have a lot of digest comics. Going way back. Lots of good stuff. There's Slam Bang in there. My own comic. Sunwing, I'm working on a new issue. Larry Blake does the artwork and a lot of the writing. Slam Bang again. More Alan Freeman stuff. And there's so many comics and stuff, it's ridiculous. Fantasy Theater, J. Kevin Carrier's incredible anthology comic title. Lady Spectre and Sparky, two great characters. He has plenty of great characters. There's a beautiful cover there. Ramblings of a Small Press Comics fan. Have a great day.